Greetings and salutations, mappers, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Last time, we brought in what's-her-face, Madame Tuspels, to get some background information on the wax figure of the professor. And we have slowly linked the connection of the professor with the coroner, Courtney Scythe, also known as Courtney Stevens, and Mr. Enoch Drebber. Our assumption is that some foul play has occurred during the professor's autopsy. And going along with what the, what do you call it? The newspaper said, how the professor rise from the grave only to be shot again, leaves some credence that something is amiss. So, in solving this teleportation kerfuffle, we are also solving a zombie mystery. And I believe this is the final stretch. So, onward! Thank you for your attendance at such short notice, Dr. Scythe. I'm disappointed in you, Lord Van Zix. You've completely betrayed the agreed policy of both Scotland Yard and the prosecutor's office. Betrayal is not in my nature, so as long as the truth isn't compromised. If it is, if there's even a hint of wrongdoing, then no matter whom it concerns or disgruntles, I will pursue the matter to the bitter end, as would any prosecutor worth his salt. Mr. Drebber, you took the victim's life by means of a machine that you constructed in your workshop. And Dr. Scythe, as the investigating coroner, you were the first on the scene to examine the victim's body. It is the belief of the defense that you collaborated with each other and were both complicit in this crime. And where's your evidence? At present, we have no definitive evidence, but we do have a very significant clue. What are you talking about? I'm talking, of course, about the waxwork. This model of the killer, known as the Professor, who was sentenced to death 10 years ago. You don't need to tell me. I witnessed the man's execution with my own eyes, and officially pronounced him dead. That remains to be seen. Is that so? According to the newspapers from the time, on the night following his execution, the killer came back to life. Don't waste my time. And the sole witness to that mysterious event was you, Mr. Drebber, wasn't it? If what you saw in the graveyard that night 10 years ago wasn't some chilling fiction, but reality, it would make you privy to a very great secret of Dr. Scythe. A secret so profound, it could compel the coroner to agree to collaborate with your evil scheme, in fact. Mr. Drebber, tell the court. Tell everyone the truth of what you saw that night in Low Gate Cemetery. Say, what's the student who saw it? You can see the resemblance, actually, can't you? With the man that Madame Tuspel. I mean, Surely he's not going to claim that he really saw what he saw. He was a research student at the University of London, wasn't he? Yeah, a bit too clever for his own good, if you ask me. What an interesting twist. When at the time, not one person would take me seriously. Yet now here we are, 10 years later, and suddenly my story matters. And in a court of law, too. Very well then, if everyone so wishes. Let's be frank. I'll tell you the truth of what happened that night, for what it's worth. Ooh, give him the stink eye. Oh, at least he eats something. So, Mr. Drummer, your testimony, please, about the events of that night 10 years ago. You will tell the court exactly what you stumbled across in Lowgate Cemetery. Yes, of course, as you wish. Witness testimony. In the cemetery 10 years earlier. The reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery at all 10 years ago was for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say. Yes, the illustration in the newspaper article was based on what I witnessed that night. But thinking back now, I realized that I never actually saw the professor. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model of me from wax. Then I gave up my dream of being a scientist, and it was all because of that newspaper article. Wait a minute. You're claiming you didn't actually see the professor now? Of course, you'd have to have a screw loose if you believe a corpse could come back to life. Come back from the dead. But, so you're saying this article is not worth the paper it's printed on? I think that would describe it perfectly, yes. Ugh. If the details in the article aren't true, it nullifies your argument for why Mr. Drebber and Dr. Size would have been working together. So he's discrediting himself to cripple my argument. Tell me, witness. You claim to have been in the cemetery on some auxiliary business. Can you elaborate? That's right. Grave robbing, to be precise. As you know, Lowgate Cemetery is at the rear of Barclays Prison. So, among students of the university, it had a reputation for being haunted by the ghosts of condemned convicts. Grave robbings, you say? Yes. Exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative. Of course, I never laid a finger on any valuables buried with the dead. So you were one of the so-called resurrectionists, a particularly unpleasant scourge on society. Actually, my fellows and I went by another name. The Repurposers. That is quite beyond the pale. You would invite divine retribution, sir. Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. It caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me unambiguously, I might add. I see. Out of interest, who drew the illustration for this article? Yes. That was the reporter who exposed me. He sketched that right in front of me as I described the scene. Obviously, as time ticked on, I bitterly regretted what I'd done. Claiming to have seen something I never truly saw. Foolish. Very foolish.
Well, counsel for the defense, you may proceed to the cross-examination now.
At once, my lord.
Cross-examination. In the cemetery 10 years earlier.
The reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery at all 10 years ago was for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say.
Hold it!
By moonlighting, you mean grave robbing, do you? Surely you only need to look at the graveyard scene and my appearance to gauge the answer to that.
The lantern and spade.
But who on earth would want to buy a dead body? Any major hospital. A hospital? In order to better understand the human body, the study of anatomy is crucial to medical science. But there isn't a hospital in the world that has enough specimens to work with. Though obviously they can't openly express an interest in obtaining more by dubious means. As aspiring scientists, we young research students had no money to work with, as I'm sure you can imagine. So we made, I don't know how to pronounce that word, surreptitious arrangements with a hospital via some of our medical student acquaintances. Wait, acquaintances or acquaintances? Yeah, acquaintances. My eyes went blurry for a second there. We would never take anything of value from the graves. This was all for the furtherance of science, you see. That's what we all told ourselves every time we stole into the graveyard at night, spade in hand.
You realize body snatching is a serious crime. If you were caught, you could expect the gravest of consequences.
We students were caught between the hammer and the anvil. We needed funds for research. Professor Harebrain said exactly the same.
I'm quite speechless at the apparent levity with which you've revealed this abhorrent behavior.
Well, if you wanted to know why I was there at Lowgate Cemetery, that's the reason. But I never expected it to end the way it did. That I regret to this day. Yes, the illustration in that newspaper article was based on what I witnessed that night.
Hold it!
The strange happenings at Lowgate Cemetery, which you now deny. Not entirely. I ran to fetch the police at the time. You know, I was shaking like a leaf. But they didn't believe a word of it. In fact, I was very nearly arrested myself. So you went to the papers instead. I started dig with the London News, but unsurprisingly, they didn't want to know either. In the end, though, it was reporters from the gossip rags, the gutter press, that came to get my story. And it spread like the plague through the capital, as gossip-hungry Londoners lapped up the tale.
The story was in every single paper at the time, with the exception of some blood sheets.
And yet, only 2 or 3 of them actually interviewed me personally. Most of the accounts turned out to be very interpretive ghost stories.
What about the article in the Daily Circus?
That particular journalist found me at my dormitory. I don't know how, but he discovered my name. So I recounted to him exactly what had happened that night.
And from your description, he drew this illustration.
Precisely. That's how I learned that the condemned man was the infamous professor. Because the reporter told me so. I had no idea myself, you see.
Newspaper reporters are wont to snoop around in matters that don't concern them. So the scene portrayed in the illustration is accurate then.
Well, thinking back now, I realized that I never actually saw the professor at all, though.
Hold it!
What are you talking about? I think I explained it already, didn't I? Lowgate Cemetery is at the rear of Barclay Prison. So it was renowned among us students at the university for being haunted by ghosts of condemned convicts. For some absurd reason, I was scared of the graveyard at night. And as a result, only too willing to believe that nonsense about the dead coming back to life.
But you said you actually saw it.
I said what I'd seen in my mind's eye. After all, resurrection is impossible, isn't it? You'd have to be unhinged to think otherwise. Unless, of course, you have some evidence that proves I encountered the professor that night.
I don't know. Is there any material evidence that could show he really did see the professor? Do you have anything at all, Mr. Naruto? I know. I need to present it against the irritatingly backtracking statement of his.
The point is, that night was a pivotal moment in my life. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model of me from wax.
Hold it!
That young woman being Madame Tustos, of course. Precisely. I must say, I didn't expect to run into her again like this 10 years later.
As I have explained, I went by the name published in the article, and Kamasa, I found the man.
Yes, the article in the Daily Circus, I think you said. I was a poor student with barely a penny to my name at the time. and the young lady put 5 pounds in front of me.
So, you readily consented to having a waxwork of yourself made and gave permission for it to be put on display.
I did. I should sell what little I had to sell, I concluded.
Ah, wait, I remember now. I purchased something else from you that day. N'est-ce pas?
Did you? I can't say I remember. What was it, madame?
His camera.
Ah. Oh, yes. I made a point of taking it with me whenever I made an excursion into any cemetery.
You took a camera with you, sir. To what end?
To record the details of the bodies I disinterred. But I had no intention of ever visiting a graveyard again after that night, so I sold it.
I see.
But I still have it, monsieur. It is part of the special exhibit in my House of Horrors. I am very meticulous about such details. It is the Dustbell's way. It was seen then that this is the very camera Mr. Drebber took with him to locate cemetery on the night in question.
Yes, interesting.
The details of the camera have been updated in the court record.
Then I gave up my dream of becoming a scientist. And it was all because of that newspaper article.
Hold it! This article, you mean? Published in the Daily Circus? Fourth time brought it up.
Yes, stop rubbing the salt in the wounds. Yes, somebody informed the dean that it was my name that appeared in the article. And carelessly let slip that night after night I was digging up graves. Hardly a model student, you might say. The university's reputation was execrably defiled, and I was expelled as a result.
Mon Dieu, I had no idea.
And having been run out of university, you found employment in a somewhat specialist trade. You combine your knowledge of science with knowledge of stage magic to create various experimental machines intended to demonstrate never-before-seen technology. And you use those deceptive machines to trick the government and private investors into giving you money. Professor Albert Harebrained was just your latest victim, wasn't he?
Whatever are you talking about? I have no recollection of doing anything of the sort.
What's Drebber up to? Why would he suddenly change his tune and recant his claim?
I wonder if perhaps it's because his circumstances have changed now.
What circumstances?
Well, if he admits to having seen the professor emerging alive from his grave 10 years ago, it will expose a secret in Dr. Sai's past that he would desperately want to hide.
Yes, of course. If Drebber and Dr. Saiz are working together now, then if Drebber were to betray her, there would be no reason for her to continue to cooperate. In that case, there's only one way around it. I'll have to prove he really did see it.
Proof you really did see the professor's corpse coming back from the dead, as he originally claimed.
Yes, Mr. Naruto, exactly.
The problem is we don't have the film, the photo slate. Oh my god, there's blood.
What a wonderful machine.
You really love contraptions like this, don't you?
Oh yes, anything mechanical I find absolutely irresistible.
Almost irresistible, surely.
Well, whenever I see a pocket watch, for example, I can't help myself. I simply have to take it apart.
That's worrying.
Yes, father tells the time by rubbing his stomach, by the rumblings of his stomach now. He's given up on having a watch.
Or Professor Nikotova.
Look, Mr. Naruto.
What is it?
On the bellows of just here, there seems to be some very dark red stains.
Yes, you're right. It looks like blood, actually.
Oh my.
I'm sure it's not what you're thinking.
Ha 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 ha. Ah.
These over the camera have been updated in the court record. This is where the photographic plate goes, I think. Isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Isn't it incredible to think that this is the actual camera Mr. Drebber used that night? I certainly never imagined a piece of evidence would be on display in Madame Tussauds.
She's very keen on everything being as true to life as possible, though, isn't she? It has to be the camera, right?
Hold it!
Represent the camera as a statement, then?
Objection!
Nope. That last statement, which seems to be at odds somehow with the evidence. This is your task, Counsel, to explain the somehows to the court, not the other way around. It just seems to jar, don't you think? What I think is that this whole exchange has been extremely jarring, yes. Perhaps I need to reconsider this. What do I need for that here? I am stuck.
still can't see what's inside. No clues here. There must be a reason why we have this. Slow malplaculum, fostering burgeoning talent for the future of scientific discovery.
It seems rather ironic, doesn't it?
But clearly, Mr. Drover really was a talented scientist. I feel like I have to present this article because they mention it so many times. But where do I present it? I'm actually kind of stumped here. I can't really see a contradiction.
Hold it!
There's no, like, panic from what I've seen. Did I present the camera there then?
Objection!
No, I should probably stop doing this. Probably something obvious? I am stumped here. You resent the science trophy?
Objection!
No. That was a little silly for even me. Is that the head?
Objection!
Nope.
Damn it, the photo plate would tell us that he was there, because he probably took a picture of it. Okay, I need to look this up. I actually cannot figure this out. I have no clues go off right now. It's probably something super obvious, too. Did I not present the article on this? Was I just faffing about?
Objection!
I'm an idiot. I truly am an idiot. I do not disagree with this. I'm sorry, Mr. Drebber, but I don't believe that. Don't believe what? Your latest claim. You did see the professor on that night 10 years ago. Oh dear, we seem to be at odds, but I was there, and you were not. I know what I didn't see. The illustration with this article was drawn based upon what you told the journalist that you witnessed. A figure emerging from a tomb, wearing an iron mask. Oh! The Iron Mask was... Oh. He wouldn't have known otherwise. I'm a fool. I'm an absolute fool. I forgot. The Iron Mask actually was part of his execution outfit. So he wouldn't have known who he was. Otherwise, it'd just be a normal corpse. Too detailed. Yes. When the killer was tried 10 years ago, it was decided in the closed court's rulings that the man would wear the mask to hide his identity. It wasn't to be removed even during his execution and subsequent burial. Not even the prison wardens were to see the man's face. But obviously, the provision of this mask was not public knowledge. So, Mr. Drebber, as you've just heard, a lowly student of the University of London certainly wouldn't have known about the condemned man's mask. So unless you'd actually seen the professor that night, it's inconceivable that the artist would have included the mask in that illustration. Wow. Order! Order! Well, Mr. Drebber? It's a vile scene, isn't it? If you look closely. And as I've already been at pains to point out, I was utterly petrified. Which is why I had it in my head that I had seen a blood-curdling sight. But afterwards, I came to my senses and realized that I'd been mistaken. You're still saying you didn't see it? If you're stubbornly sticking to that story, witness, then amend your testimony to explain exactly how you think your eyes deceived you. Of course, of course. Only too happy to oblige. I can't believe he's still not going to concede the point. What I, in fact, witnessed was a fellow grave robber at work.
Hold it!
Who was shot? A fellow grave robber? What are you talking about? Well, I wasn't the only one busy in the cemetery that night, you know. Other body snatchers were at work. Of course, when I saw one emerging from the hole he dug, my heart very nearly stopped. So that's the terrifying sight I actually saw, you see.
You're claiming it was just another student on equally insalubrious business as yourself.
Many of the medical students would wear metal masks to protect them from bacteria during dissections. I don't believe that's true. Clearly, the fellow was using such a mask to protect his anonymity. Wouldn't you say?
Objection!
But there's more to the story, isn't there? The article goes on to say, in the next second, a gunshot rang out suddenly from behind. The bullet pierced the resurrected man's chest, whose breath then stilled once more. We might assume that the sexton discovered the miscreant at work then, and fired upon one of them.
If a gravedigger had shot someone in the cemetery, I think it might have been rather big news, my lord.
Ah, yes, well.
I can only assume it was an embellishment bolted on later by the reporter.
Excuse me!
Excuse me. Ma'am Tossballs. Don't take it out on Mr. Sholmes.
Oh la la, pardon. I was lost in my thoughts.
Would it be fair to say that Mr. Drebber's last remark was significant to you in some way?
I thought it was a little strange, that is all. How Monsieur Drebber could claim this now.
If you don't mind me saying, madame, what are you talking about?
Well, when I met you 10 years ago at your university dormitory, you recounted to me about your adventures in the cemetery, no? Including the gunshot.
Stop. You might want to watch your tongue, you know.
Objection!
Have a care, Drebber. That is no way to speak to a lady.
Grr.
Please, Ma'am Tossballs.
Carry on.
Of course. According to what Monsieur Drebber told me at the time, he did hear a gunshot from behind him, and the bullet hit the condemned man.
I said nothing of the sort.
No, you were very explicit about the details, about the mask that the figure was wearing, and the blood that splattered over you when he was shot.
Enough. Shut up, woman. You're making all this up.
That will do. Mr. Drebber.
Yes.
You refute the account just given by Madame Tossballs?
I have no recollection of ever saying those things. Come on! Do you really expect us to believe you?
Control yourself, counsel. I will not permit baseless accusations in my courtroom.
Okay, that's BS. You know it.
Right. Under the circumstances, I think it's best that you supplement your testimony with a statement to clarify your position on this, witness.
Very well. There was no gunshot from behind me at all, nor any splattering blood.
Hold it!
Well, I think I got the camera now.
Yet Madame Tussbells has testified that you told her about both of those details.
Not true. I said nothing of the sort.
10 years have passed. Without material evidence to the contrary, you have no grounds on which to question the witness's word.
Tell me, Madame Tussbells. What exactly did Mr. Draper say about the blood that apparently splattered on him?
Hello. This is what he told me. All of a sudden, he heard a very loud gunshot from behind his back. And the bullet hit the figure who was emerging from the tomb in the middle of the chest in his art.
One dreadful sight after another.
And since Monsieur Drebber was at the time facing toward the condemned man, the blood splayed from the wound and splattered on his body. That is what he told me.
So, not an experience you would ever forget, is it? Precisely. And I didn't forget it, because as I've already said, it never happened in the first place.
He's clearly lying. If only I had some evidence to prove it. We can't let him win, Mr. Naruto. So we mustn't overlook a single detail, no matter how small.
Well, I think this bloody camera was speak
Objection!
volumes. Mr. Drebber, do you remember this camera?
But that is the camera from the fateful night.
Yes, we borrowed it from the House of Horrors. Well, like, no indication that it was related to the case at all. It's the camera you took with you to the cemetery that night, Mr. Drebber. And is that supposed to be significant? This kind of camera is rarely seen in our homeland, so my colleague and I were keen to examine it closely. And we noticed that the lenses extends forward on the end of some bellows. Like this.
Hold it!
What is that? There, just on the bellows. It looks like a dark red stain. Ah! That's right. It's a rather conspicuous mark here on the bellows, in fact. Good lord! Are you suggesting? Yes, my lord. It would appear to be a splatter of blood.
Something that could be confirmed with a simple chemical test. Isn't that right?
Just slice.
It would be difficult to determine if it was human blood and not the blood of some animal. But yes, to test whether or not it's blood at all is simple enough.
I propose that Madame Tussbell's testimony was correct. And that on the night in question 10 years ago, you were splattered with blood from the gunshot wound. Well, And that furthermore, you really did witness the condemned professor emerging from his tomb. There's simply no way you could have forgotten such a traumatic experience. In other words, the only explanation is that you're trying to hide the fact that you saw the professor that night.
Objection!
But why? Why would he want to do that?
Well, not for his own gain, it would seem.
For who is that? Who could benefit?
Mr. Dripper is obviously lying, in order to protect somebody.
My goodness! He's shooting someone!
Yes, my lord. And clearly, is someone who doesn't want the truth about the professor coming back to life to be exposed. Well, counsel, who is it then? Who is this witness trying to object by lying about what he saw that night? One Courtney Scythe.
Take that!
The obvious answer is Dr. Scythe.
Scythe.
Whatever do you mean? Imagine if a convict who'd been sentenced to death was not in fact killed. Imagine if that was to come to light.
What are you insinuating?
And imagine if the convict in question was the country's most hated mass murderer. If it was the professor, that would be an unprecedented scandal.
Objection!
This is beyond a joke. Need I point out that the dead cannot come back to life? What you're suggesting would mean that the execution never actually happened.
Yes, that's exactly what we mean.
Objection!
Once a man is sent to the gallows, he hangs. No one could escape. Not in Great Britain.
Objection!
But the fact is, there was a witness to the fact that the man did escape his hanging. If that were actually true, counsel, the implications of misconduct would not stop at the supervising coroner. It would take the honor of the entire judiciary from the ground up. And it's exactly because of these monumental repercussions. Monumental. I don't like. That Dr. Scythe would consent to any demand made of her by someone who threatened to expose the secret. Even if that meant being complicit in a crime. You mean? I mean that Dr. Scythe wasn't collaborating in Mr. Dripper's wicked scheme. She was coerced into collaborating in order to protect her decade-old secret. She switched the dead body of Mr. Asman with the wax model and fabricated the autopsy report. Well, Lord Van Zeeks?
Pray forgive my fleshly filled aloe jealous, and a whole raft of other discourtesies now.
Goodness me!
Is just the sort of dull tale Londoners would enjoy, I grant you. An executed killer rising from the dead, a Scotland Yard cover-up, a conspiracy at the highest levels. So let me ask you one thing.
What's that?
If the condemned man really did emerge from his tomb that night only to be shot in the chest, who pulled the trigger and disposed of him forever?
Well, I have no idea at the moment.
We have too little information to work that out at present, I think.
I couldn't agree more.
The Old Bailey is no place for wild fantasies. And have you considered this, my learned Nipponese friend?
Considered what?
Do you realize just what a dangerous endeavor it would be to coerce this woman into such criminal activity? It's tantamount to declaring war on the entire British police force and judiciary.
Quite. Hard to imagine a sum of money being offered for research could warrant it.
To rely on some staged deception when so much is at stake would be madness.
Well, I suppose.
And this was no petty crime either. The victim was murdered. A man who'd already invested money in the venture and would be instrumental in future profits too.
Yes, I had no reason to kill Mr. Asman at all. Or are you forgetting that his death results in me receiving not a single penny? The court is already aware of the contract between myself and the victim. No.
There's the contract. That's very true.
The motive for this case runs deep, though. I can feel it.
Using threats to force the head of the forensic investigation team to cooperate is extreme. Especially for a government grant he had no guarantee of receiving in the first place.
If the research grant was the aim, taking Mr. Asman's life would have made no sense anyway. Which means Mr. Dribber's motive wasn't money at all. He was just trying to kill Mr. Asman. Oh! The signature on the paper! Oh, Asman! He was a reporter! That's the motive! Oh man, I'm an idiot. Thank God he signed his name. But why? What was his motive then?
Your time is up, my learned friend. I'd say you have one last chance before the jury loses their patience with this charade. Let's see if you can back up your heady proposal, shall we? How do you explain why this engineer would throw all caution to the wind and threaten his own country?
At this point, I'm not prepared to listen to more of this outlandish conjecture without proof. So, counsel, present your evidence. Alright. Who exactly was Mr. Asman to Drebber? There's a connection there that no one's seen yet. And I'm going to have to present 2 pieces of evidence to show what it is. Wait, 2. Yes, my lord. The evidence that establishes a motive and explains why the witness wanted the victim dead is right here. It's a 10-year-old article. It's this newspaper article, my lord.
That was written 10 years ago, and every detail has been examined already. What can it possibly tell us?
That drivel should never have been written. It's typical gutter press nonsense that means nothing. Yes, on its own, it isn't particularly significant. However, when considered alongside another piece of evidence, it will completely explain your motive for wanting Mr. Asman dead.
What other evidence?
Oh, the contract has the signature. We do layer matching. Counsel, you present your supplementary evidence without delay. The evidence of which, when cross-referenced with the newspaper article, establishes a motive for the deed. Oh, like right next to each other too. Wow, wacky-o.
that!
It's this contract, my lord. Mr. Drebber, this is a contract you signed with Mr. Asman.
Yes, that's right. The very document, in fact. That proves I had no reason to kill the man.
No, I'm afraid not.
What?
There's something very significant about that this newspaper article and the contract have in common.
Really?
And it's that common link that shows very clearly why you were determined to kill Mr. Odie Asman. It seems the defense has uncovered something the rest of us have missed. So, my learned friend, point out what these two pieces of evidence have in common. Where exactly is the link between this newspaper article and the contract?
Take that!
What these two pieces of evidence have in common is a signature.
A signature?
The signature on the illustration that accompanies the 10-year-old article and the signature on the contract belong to the same person.
What?
As the court has heard, this illustration was drawn 10 years ago by the newspaper reporter who found Mr. Drebber and interviewed him about his ordeal. If you look closely, the reporter's signature can be seen in the bottom right corner of the drawing. And if you look at the contract here, which was signed between the witness and the victim last year, you can clearly see Mr. Asman's signature at the bottom.
Let me see now. Good lord, yes! They're identical.
In short, the journalist who drew the illustration and wrote the article published about Mr. Drebber 10 years ago was the victim of this case, Mr. Odie Asman.
Objection!
But explain to the court why. Why would that constitute a motive for the witness to murder murder Asman? Well, if you think back, you remember that Mr. Drebber talked about the article in his testimony.
Good, great grave robbing, you say?
Yes, exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative.
That is quite beyond the pale. You would invite divine retribution, sir.
Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. It caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me unambiguously, I might add. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist. And it was all because of that newspaper article. At the time, you were a student of the University of London who dreamt of becoming a scientist. However, this single newspaper article changed your entire life.
So, Mr. Asman used to be a newspaper journalist, did he?
He did, my lord. In fact, it's a widely held belief that Asman managed to position himself at the heart of his criminal network, thanks to the many dubious connections he made during his time as a reporter. So you had to give up on your dream and leave university. You lost everything. Eventually, you found yourself working in the field of science, but only in the shadows. And all because of that article. written by Mr. Asman.
Enough! Stop this endless drivel about my life.
What? Explain yourself, Mr. Drummer.
Yes, it's true. I had to leave the university as a result of that article. But it was just the straw that broke the camel's back.
What do you mean?
Almost every student of science in the faculty was too poor to actually conduct any research. But they struggled on with their hypothesis anyway. We all did. Only to have them taken by vultures. Sooner or later, you knew your ideas would be stolen and patented by some wretch or other after all.
Good gracious!
Making a name for yourself as a scientist in a climate like that was a miracle only a select few geniuses could ever hope to achieve. Personally, I wasn't one of those geniuses, so it was hardly a wrench. Being forced out of the university because of Logate was the best thing that could have happened to me.
Objection!
Your rage speaks otherwise.
Mr. Drummer, do you genuinely believe that?
Of course I do. Who's better placed to know whether or not I possess a talent for science than me?
I'm sorry to say that your words don't ring true at all.
How dare you?
And I have evidence to prove it.
How are you in a position to say anything about me? I don't know you from Adam. Fine, if you think you have evidence, go ahead, show it. What could you possibly have to disprove the idea that I was happy to leave the university because I lack talent?
Take that!
The trophy. Do you remember this, Mr. Drummer? We found it at your workshop. Is that a Royal Society trophy for excellence in science? What exactly is this trophy, Council? It's the greatest honor that can be bestowed on a young scientist, my lord. There is no higher accolade. It recognizes emerging talent and promises a bright future. Good gracious! Your prospects for the future were excellent, weren't they, Mr. Drummer? Because even then, you were a genius in your field. But you lost everything. You had no more future. Your talents would go to waste. All as a result of this one newspaper article. I don't know when you realized who Mr. Asman was, but when it dawned on you that he was the same journalist who 10 years ago ruined your life, it's abundantly clear that you had no intention of forgiving the man.
The truth is...
Finally, he's going to fold.
Who said hold it?
Ah, of course.
Hold it. Fine. Clearly, this has run its course now.
What?
I admit all of it.
What? What are you doing?
is exactly as the Japanese man said. I was coerced into going along with this man's plot to murder the victim, on the condition that he kept my dirty secret from 10 years ago.
No. Good lord! Dr. C. Scythe, do you realize what you're saying, woman?
It's all true. That day, when I arrived at the Crystal Tower and saw the birdcage, my heart nearly stopped beating. That memory from a decade ago that I'd done my best to bury deep inside myself. It was the professor again, staring me in the face. And then, before I had a chance to react, I noticed something else. There was a note tucked inside the model's jacket.
Dr. Scythe, you will go along with my plan? From someone who knows the truth about what really happened that night 10 years ago.
All the instructions were there to note. Every detail was meticulously written out. I had no choice but to do what I said.
No, you had a choice. We could have ended this a lot sooner. Had you made that choice.
I made the necessary alterations to the scene and fabricated the autopsy report as instructed. There was really no other choice. It had to be done to protect the judiciary. I can only apologize now. Can't trust cops.
Corrupt all the way down. Can't trust lenders. All corrupt. All racist.
Why on earth would you buckle now?
Well, there's no point in trying to hide it anymore, is there? I would have done anything to stop it coming out. Even collaborate in a murder. But the great lie about that execution 10 years ago has been exposed. Whatever happens, I'm finished.
So then, Mr. Dribber, what do you say to that? Your accomplice has admitted everything?
Surely it goes without saying.
You admit your part in it too, then?
I admit nothing at all. What? Have you forgotten that the kinesis machine was ripped to shreds by an explosion? Short of me admitting to a crime, there's really no possible way for you to prove I did anything wrong. No!
Order! Order! Order!
Whatever this man says, I admit everything. He threatened to expose my secret, so I went along with his plan. And Lord Van Zeeks,
Yes.
I hope you'll accept my apologies. What happens next is in your hands, of course.
Are we gonna learn that the professor was Van Zeek's brother? Is that the twist? I have heard more than enough now. I hereby present the final findings of this court.
Really?
This trial is not the proper form in which to pursue the alleged wrongdoings of Mr. Drebber.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Fair enough. The defendant is Professor Albert Hareberry. Very true. It had slipped my mind.
Isn't he one of your closest friends? Only friends? As the court has heard that the site has admitted to the allegations brought by the defense, thereby absolving the defendant of any possible guilt.
Oh, neat.
Yes. You mean? At the present time, it is the conclusion of this court that the defendant was not involved in any wrongdoing. Does the prosecution have any objection?
None, my lord.
Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruto. You've proven Professor Hairbrain's innocence.
Something tells me this should go on longer.
Without further ado then, the adjudication. Unless the prosecution or defense have any other matters to discuss.
I feel like there's a missing link here. I don't know. This doesn't feel quite right. Why did Dr. Size suddenly admit to it like that? That was too easy.
Is everything alright, Mr. Naruto?
Like you said before, the way the trial is set to end now, the judge will certainly deliver a verdict of not guilty. But is that really what we want? What the defense should be pushing for now is
Further testimony.
Objection!
The defense objects to the trial ending at this time, my lord. I beg your pardon? We demand one final testimony. What? You do realize I'm about to abdicate in favor of your client, I presume.
what are you playing at now, my Nipponese friend? Why would you want to obstruct the conclusion of the trial at this point? No defense lawyer in his right mind would do that.
Mr. Naruto, what exactly are you thinking?
The truth. The whole truth. And a way to bring it all out into the open.
Right.
Yes. In hindsight.
Ah, yes. One word of warning before I go. If, in the course of the trial this afternoon, you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog with a bone. To the bitter end, you understand. Do not falter, whatever may come to pass.
I'm sure Mr. Sholmes knew. He must have deduced that this would happen. Yes, I'm here in court to advocate for my client and to secure an acquittal. Obviously. But that's not all. I believe that I have a duty to the court to pursue the whole truth of the case until every last detail is laid bare. And that is why the defense calls for further testimony from Dr. Scythe.
Testimony from me about what?
About the nature of your collaboration with Mr. Enoch Drebber.
In case it has escaped your attention, I've already admitted to everything I did. The whole truth has already been revealed. So stop wasting everyone's time. As his lordship made very plain, your client will get the acquittal you wanted for him. There's simply no point in protracting this business further with another tedious cross-examination.
Objection!
My eye! Pray forgive my careless handling of that hallowed bottle. I slipped.
That's what you call it? What is your objection, Lord Van Zeeks?
The prosecution also calls for supplementary testimony from the witness.
Don't be stupid.
If there is more to this case than has yet to come to light, then I will join my learned friend in pursuing the facts until the bitter end.
Yo, what? Lord Van Zeeks?
This is most irregular, to say the least. However, as the prosecution also calls for it, I will uphold the request. Dr. Slice, you will testify before the court. Explain the full extent of your involvement in the murder apparently committed by Mr. Drebber.
Very well.
Witness testimony. The waxwork plots.
It all began at the scene when I saw the waxwork and the note tucked inside his jacket. The actual body of the victim, as indicated in the note's instructions, was beneath their experimentation stage. The body had been arranged in a certain way to implicate the defendant, which was my job. The body had to be arranged in a certain way to implicate the defendant, which was my job. I enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to dress the scene appropriately.
What? That's been plot. The whole team's corrupt.
The truth about the execution 10 years ago is a state secret of the highest level. I had to protect it.
So I was right. The stage and the machine were all specially designed for the deception.
So it seems. And all meticulously prepared. You did well to see through it. You're very shrewd, boy.
So kind of you to say.
And what about the autopsy report then? All I did was record the location of the body as being in the Crystal Tower instead of under the stage. That's all? That's a terrible corruption. Only my team were aware of the deceit, and then only under my explicit instructions. Nobody else at Scotland Yard knew anything about it, I assure you.
I don't really trust that smile. We must be thankful for small miracles, I suppose. Well, I believe that testimony has clarified everything. There's no particular need for cross-examination, I would say.
No, I disagree. I can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. Just look at that expression on Dr. Sai's face.
Is the defense right to cross-examine a witness following testimony?
What is it about you Japanese that make you all so doggedly persistent?
Very well. If you so desire, counsel, proceed with the cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Cross-examination. The waxwork plot.
It all began at the scene when I saw the waxwork and a note tucked inside his jacket.
Hold it!
From what you described before, it sounds like the note was anonymous. Do you have any idea who was behind it?
There are very few people in the know about what really happened 10 years ago to start with. But anyway, I'd never heard of this engineer, so no, I have no idea.
Yet despite not knowing who was behind the plan, you went along with it?
I had no choice. Protecting the professor's secret was my only concern.
But the horse has bolted now, and the stable door will never shut again. Scotland Yard's reputation will be immeasurably damaged as a result of all of this.
Yes, thank you, Lord Van Zeeks. I'm well aware of that.
So, as I understand it, what you found in the birdcage was the waxwork model. Where then was the victim's body?
The actual body of the victim, as indicated in the note's instruction, was beneath the experimentation stage.
Hold it!
So you knew about the special construction of the stage used to carry out the trick then?
It was quite obvious what had happened with the victim in the waxwork.
And you switched the two over, didn't you? In other words, you record the victim's body as having been discovered in the Crystal Tower, and the waxwork?
I wrapped it and sent it by carriage to the specified address at the specified time.
And why were you given such directions? Presumably, so it could be recovered by Trevor and returned to Madame Dustbill's. I see. And then you put the birdcage back on the experimentation stage.
Yes, although someone often made a mistake about which cage to go where. I thought I made it perfectly clear to the team, but still.
I suppose you were focused on the victim's body, that being a more important detail.
The body had to be arranged in a certain way to implicate the defendant, which was my job.
Hold it!
When you say arrange, I presume you mean with this?
Yes, the instructions in the engineer's notes said something along the lines of fabricate some evidence to make it clear that Hairbrain alone could have killed Aslan.
So, you mean that was your doing?
I fetched Hairbrain's ridiculous screwdriver from the stage and took her with me alone to the abyss under the stage where the birdcage had fallen.
Hello, Doctor! I guess not. Someone else there.
I didn't feel it would be appropriate to involve anybody else in that particular part of the deception.
Oh, well.
There was a void under the stage where I found the birdcage lying in the dirt. I approached it, leaned down, and slowly opened it up. Then, I took the screwdriver in both hands and plunged it into the man's chest.
And then you noted that in your fake autopsy report as a fictitious cause of death.
Exactly.
So, the actual cause of death was
The trauma resulting from the 30-foot drop.
my word. What is it, Miss Usato?
Something about Dr. Sai's last statement. It's playing on my mind. That's all.
Yes, mine too. Dr. Slice!
There's really no need to shout. I can hear you perfectly well.
The defense calls for you to add what you just said to your formal testimony.
Oh? Which part?
What I want to hear, what I want her to supplement her testimony with is the real cause of death. The real cause of death being the fall of 30 feet. That part. I don't think his vertebrae would be damaged because he would just fall straight down. He would land feet first.
Fine, if that's what you want. Just stop yelling, please.
The prosecution concurs. Very well. You will supplement your testimony now, witness.
If you wish, my lord. The actual cause of death was the neck trauma Mr. Asman suffered from the 30-foot fall.
Hold it!
You're quite sure of that. It was as a result of a broken neck?
Yes. As a professional, that was more than apparent. You should have never known just by looking at the photograph of the victim, though, would you?
No, that's very true.
Obviously not. Which is precisely why coroners are needed to determine the actual facts.
Yes, assuming they can be trusted. There's no point calling her a suspect into question without evidence. Let's get back to the testimony.
Very well.
Okay, I'm pretty sure I should present the birdcage here. Because the birdcage has a broken base, right?
Objection!
Really? I had there. I thought I was being so clever. Yeah, you need to look at it in more detail. Like, wouldn't he just have, like, had broken legs? Like, most of the shock has been absorbed by the cage, just judging from, like, how it fell. He should have been fine.
I enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to address the scene appropriately.
Hold it!
The entire team? Is perverting the course of justice? In perverting the course of justice?
My team consists of the very best investigators there are. I demand loyalty from all members. We operate on a code of chivalry of sorts.
You aid and abet a murderer, commit perjury, and dare to talk of chivalry?
It was a matter of priorities.
What?
Nothing was more important than protecting the secret of the professor. My team did what was necessary without losing sight of the primary goal. I consider their conduct exemplary. Sorry. Ugh. Don't concede the point, Mr. Naruto. You mustn't let her win.
I need a lawyer.
I'll take that silence as tact acceptance. Now, can you move on? The truth about the execution 10 years ago is a state secret of the highest level. I had to object.
Hold it!
But at what cost? Faith in Scotland Yard is going to suffer a terrible blow as a result of this. And your precious secret is out now anyway.
Yes, as you say. And I take full responsibility.
Blow me down, Dr. Size! Surely there was some other way you could have protected the secret.
No, there really wasn't. I've done my utmost, but believe me. In many ways, I respect your determination.
Phew! I nearly froze under that cold stare as she said that.
I do believe she was being genuine, though, Mr. Naruto.
So that's her story.
She's admitted everything and revealed her full involvement in the crime. I do wonder if there really could be much more to it.
Well, I don't know, but I just have a feeling.
Do you, Mr. Naruto? Truth is, I find it strange too. How those two are reacting to this in completely opposite ways, I mean.
Yes, exactly.
For some reason, I feel
sure they're still trying to hide something. Maybe it's the action she did?
Hold it!
Okay, let's switch it. Oh. Did I not read this one?
the body had to be arranged in a certain way to impede the defendant, which was my job.
You mean what you did with this, correct?
I was merely carrying out the engineer's instructions. In his words, fabricate some evidence to make it clear that hairbrain alone could have killed Asmund.
And so you went without any of your team to where Asmund fell. Had fallen.
That's right, yes. I leaned down over the bird cage and opened it up. Then I took the screwdriver in both hands and plunged it into the man's chest. After that, it was simply a matter of recording the stab wound as the cause of death in the autopsy report. The real cause of death being the fall, of course. I'm sure there's something here in his testimony. No. If you think it would be appropriate, I'm sure you could ask Dr. Thies to change the supplementary testimony she gave before.
What should I ask her to do with the statement she added? Let's have her change it. But apparently I'm off. Dr. Scythe, what you said before about what you did to the victim's body, I believe that may be significant. So could you change your supplementary test statement to explain that instead?
Very well. I stared over the victim's corpse where it lay in the top of the cage and plunged the screwdriver into the chest.
Hold it!
So it was you who stabbed Asmund with this?
Yes. Far easier than dissection, I assure you. No precision required.
What a welcome change.
The victim died instantly from a snap neck. All I did was carry out the instructions I'd been given.
As unflinching as ever, no doubt. I imagine you didn't bat an eye when you drove the weapon into his body.
There was no need to bat my eyelids.
And what else did you do to twist the facts? Remind the court, why don't you?
If you wish.
I have no idea why I should put this here. Wait, how would she be able to reach him? It's quite a large cage. Oh man, it's raining and snowing today. That's deadly. My drive tomorrow is gonna be horrible.
Objection!
Not it. Okay. I am lost again. Man, I really feel the cage would explain a lot of things, but apparently not. Looking up the good. Wait, I don't get this. Wait, why would this be an inconsistency? It says present the photograph.
Objection!
I don't get why we would present this. It seems to line up with her testimony, though. I've got a nasty feeling that this inconsistency points to an extremely uncomfortable truth. Asmund was alive. See, I knew that! What on earth is the matter, Council? Have you lost your tongue? I apologize, my lord. Dr. Scythe, in that last statement of yours, there's just one point that seems to defy explanation. Out with it, my learned friend. There's an obvious inconsistency between your description and this photograph, which shows the victim in the birdcage following the events that led to his death.
Objection!
The court has already examined that photograph in depth. There's nothing new we can learn from it.
Objection!
Yes, we have already considered it. That's true. But we now know the facts to be different. What do you mean? I believe we should let the defense explain. Where in the photograph would we see the alleged inconsistency in the witness's statement? I assume it's a stab wound, right? Ooh, is this a new song?
Take that!
Look closely at the bloodstain on the victim's chest. It clearly extends to a downward direction, towards the man's feet. Oh, man, I'm an idiot. That explains a lot. He wouldn't be lying down. Oh, that's what the name song is? Prelude to Pursuit? Neat. I feel like it's never been played before. Thanks, Astro Dude. And why is that and why is that significant, Council? If the victim was stabbed moments before the kinesis machine was set in motion, that's entirely expected. Oh, of course, no, that's not what happened. Exactly, my lord. Dr. Scythe made it very clear in her testimony just now that the point at which she stole Professor Harebrain's screwdriver and stabbed the victim was after the grand deception was set in motion, when the birdcage had fallen below the stage, out of sight. From the shape of it, it's clear that the birdcage would have fallen on its side after the 30-foot drop. And if the victim had really been stabbed whilst inside the birdcage in that position, the blood from the wound would have spread out equally in all directions. For it to have formed the longitudinal appearance we see in the picture is inconceivable. Given that the victim's blood seeped vertically downward from the wound, it must be the case that when you stabbed Mr. Asmund, he was standing up. In short, Dr. Scythe, your latest testimony was a total fabrication.
Ah!
I knew it. I was right. Now I've identified that contradiction There's only one way to explain the facts. We've all been under a great misapprehension here. What? What sort of misapprehension? Dr. Scythe. You claim you were coerced into helping Mr. Drebber as a result of the note he left in the waxwork. You claim that you made changes to the scene of the crime to implicate the defendant. And you claim that you authored a fake autopsy report to cover your tracks. But one of those claims is an out-and-out lie. Because the question of what the bloodstain really tells us has only one possible answer. If that is the case, what is it, man? Counsel! You've clearly struck upon a revelation. Now, tell the court what it is. Which part of Dr. Sai's story is shown to be a lie by the contradiction in her testimony? The stabbing of the victim. He was alive. The answer is very simple, if you consider the sequence of events. If, when the victim was stabbed, the blood from the wound seeped downwards as it did, we can be sure that the victim must have been either sitting or standing upright at the time. But, as you rightly pointed out, the birdcage would have fallen on its side when it fell beneath the stage. Yes, it would, which tells us that the victim must have been in that position of his own accord.
Objection!
That's impossible! The man was dead, remember? No! That is the misapprehension. When the birdcage fell from the stage into the void below, it must have hit the ground with considerable force. But Mr. Asman didn't die in the fall. He probably lost consciousness for a while, but when he came around, he got to his feet and climbed out of the cage. Just as Dr. Scythe appeared. If the victim was in fact alive at that point in time, it changes everything. Mr. Odie Asman's killer wasn't the defendant, Professor Albert Harebrain, nor was it the mastermind behind the stage trickery, Mr. Enoch Drebber. It was you, Dr. Courtney Scythe. Order! 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 Can this possibly be true? Have you been taking me for a fool? It was you, was it? You killed him? You hoped that by admitting to being an accomplice in Mr. Drebber's scheme, the trial would end. Before you were accused of a far worse crime. Cold-blooded murder! Oh, do shut up! You're so desperate now. You're making all this up. As if I would do something like that.
Objection!
I assure you, the defense is not desperate, Doctor. Mr. Naruhodo has established the facts using evidence and logic alone. Ha! Logic? Don't make me laugh. Sadly, your logic has a gaping hole in it.
What? What do you mean?
I'd have thought it was obvious. A motive, boy. You're lacking a motive. What possible reason would I have to kill Mr. Asman?
Asman was involved in any number of criminal activities, from coercion to theft to murder. But there is no known connection to Dr. Scythe there.
I mean, wouldn't she just do it to protect the Professor killer again? I'm rather relieved to say it does seem somewhat far-fetched.
True, there's no obvious motive. But there's still something in the back of my mind. I feel sure I've seen something somewhere that hints at why the coroner might have done this. Yes, I might have tampered with the crime scene and concocted a fake report. But murdering someone for no reason is a very different story.
Objection!
No. When you question what possible reason you could have for wanting to kill Mr. Asman, something did come to mind. I have no idea, actually. I'm thinking of the newspaper article again, because that's been like presented like 4 times. But I'm actually kind of drawing a blank here. Either the newspaper article or the head of the professor.
What?
What was it, Counsel? Enlighten the court at once. Yes, we saw it yesterday, didn't we? Yesterday. Something that seemed strange, but we had no reason to suspect it at the time. There's a particular object that explains why Dr. Scythe would have wanted to kill Mr. Asman. It would be the Iron Mask, right? Surely, yeah. They wouldn't put that for no reason. It's the Iron Mask.
You've lost me.
Huh? Oh, nope, I screwed up.
Sorry, Mr. Naruto, but why the Iron Mask?
Well, of all the things I saw yesterday, it left the greatest impression, so...
Clearly, you have no idea what you're talking about.
I think I must have said the wrong thing.
Forgive the interruption, Dr. Scythe, but what my colleague meant to say was scalpels. Perhaps that makes a little more sense to you?
When did I see scalpels? Ah, of course. Did you say scalpels?
Ah.
It would appear that the word had struck a chord.
You! Come on, out with it.
It was yesterday, when we visited your laboratory. Oh, with all the cost of the scalpels. That was really suspicious. Look at this big, thick book here. This has been like a week ago, I think, for me.
Ah, it appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team spending, I think. Oh?
What is it?
It's clear that the team purchases various equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but, well, one entry seems rather strange.
Really? In what way?
They're buying 500 scalpels every month.
Man, so she was like super corrupt then, huh? 500 scalpels? A month? At first, I wondered what on earth you could be using that many scalpels for. But actually, I realize now it's not the scalpels themselves that are significant. It's the money for them, disappearing every month from the department's accounts. Asman's criminal organization relied heavily on extortion for its funding.
replacing the money from the forensic investigation team's account to find out where it was going would be extremely straightforward.
10 years ago, when Mr. Asman was still a journalist and wrote this article about Mr. Drebber, he may well have stumbled upon information as he was researching the story. Information relating to Dr. Sai's darkest secrets that he would use to rack money from her for the next decade. Her darkest secrets? Good lord! You mean... I don't know what happened on the night of that execution 10 years ago, but clearly the opportunity to rid yourself of that menace was too tempting to pass up. So, in the end, you weren't coerced at all, were you? You did it entirely of your own free will. You stabbed Mr. Asman in the heart with all your might. To silence the blackmailer who knew your dark secret forever.
You'll never understand. None of you. What we've had to keep covered up all these long years.
As very little of the machine remains after it was ripped apart by the bomb. The truth of this case can never be properly established unless you speak out.
And if you decide not to, it's very possible that Courtney Slice will escape punishment for her crimes. Please, sir, own up to what you've done and tell the court the truth about what happened.
10 years ago, you told the truth, and you were robbed of a bright and successful future as a result. I can certainly understand your bitterness and your consternation now. However, this is surely the chance you've been waiting for, to sever the hold that fate had over you all these years.
Super high voltage instantaneous kinesis? I mean, really? It's the addled brain mock scientists that are the worst, you know. They don't recognize the fact that they don't have talent. They can't even get that right. And so they end up chasing impossible dreams, having unbridled faith in their abilities. They go on and on about their wonderful hypothesis, their stupid eyes shining like a little child's. They make me sick. I can't abide their foolishness.
Careful, Mr. Drummer.
I was particularly pleased with the kinesis machine. It made for quite a show, didn't it? So you admit it. You admit that it was nothing more than a sham made for the purpose of killing the victim? Yes, I admit it. I did it all in the name of revenge. Revenge for the future that Mr. Asman's article had deprived of you 10 years earlier. But the revenge you sought didn't stop at Asman, did it?
Which is where that very particular waxwork comes in. Yes, I see.
The condemned convict that you saw writhing from the grave at Lowgate Cemetery 10 years ago. If your account of those events was all true,
then obviously Scotland Yard couldn't afford to acknowledge what had happened. Even if it meant discrediting a bright young man and crushing any future career he might have had.
So your plan required that you abduct that particular waxwork model in order to exact your revenge on Scotland Yard as well. Or on Dr. Scythe, to be precise. It was a year ago. By some extraordinary twist of fate, has been turned up at my workshop. He didn't remember who I was, of course. He just wanted to employ my services as an engineer. And he happened to have a paper with him. An article on the front page caught my eye about the coroner who handled the bogus autopsy being appointed head of a new forensic team. When I learned that news, my cognitive processes started to devise the plan.
What a horrid tale.
He robbed me of my future, so I wanted to use the man's own wiles against him for revenge. And have that rotten Scotland Yard eating out of my hand at the same time. I wanted them all to suffer the same humiliation I had to suffer.
Your actions against those who'd ruin your future were justified as revenge, at least to yourself. Certainly, no one has the right to destroy another's prospects, especially for purely selfish gain. And yet, in carrying out your plan, you did exactly that to someone else, didn't you?
Did I?
Professor Harebrain's only crime was passion for his hypothesis. But you had no compunction about sacrificing his future to effect your revenge. You knew that he would be forever branded a failure and a fraud. Perhaps life treated you unfairly 10 years ago, and others' misconduct left your life in tatters. But remember this. Your own actions resulted in exactly the same thing for another perfectly innocent young man. Oh wow, that's your remorseful. Or he's gonna explode. You know, either or. Lord Venzies, what of Dr. Slice? An immediate warrant for her arrest has been granted, and she's been remanded in custody, my lord. I presume she will face trial in the coming days, along with Mr. Drebber. A most regrettable situation indeed. She made great contributions to her profession over the years. It really is a hard truth to swallow. However, that is a topic for some future occasion. For now, Professor Harebrain.
Oh, yes?
It seems there was a great deal more to your experiment than you realized. However, I think we can assume now that all the sordid details have been brought to light. This has been a very long and profound trial, but I'm pleased to say you are absolved of all guilt.
This whole experience has taught me a very great but painful lesson. This dedicated scientist, this devotee of natural philosophy. I've been selfish and self-centered, and above all, a fool.
Professor,
I spent my life thinking of nothing but my research. Misguidedly believing that I could do whatever I set my mind to, despite my lack of talent. And the worst of it is, in the process, I've caused others pain and misery. Others who are far, far greater people than I.
No, Professor. That is not true.
What?
Don't tar yourself with the same blush as Blubber. What happened was his doing in his alone. This outcome is his fate, not yours. You're not to blame in any way.
Or Vanzies.
And the delusion with which he referred to you earlier, calling you a fool, talentless even. The man has no idea. You believe in yourself and work your fingers to the bone to realize your dreams. That's laudable, not laughable. No one has the right to deride another for such choices.
Oh. Thank you, Barack.
So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Yes, my lord.
It is this court's expectation that you find the defendant not guilty of the charge of which he stands accused. I presume there are no objections?
None for me, my lord.
Certainly not.
This trial has really made me think, but this is the right decision. It's all been proven methodically and rigorously. I have no misgivings whatsoever.
What's that? He's done, is he? It's all over?
I don't know what's become of the yard these days. I don't recognize the place. Very well. In that case, I hereby pronounce the defendant not guilty.
Oh my god!
Court is adjourned.
It's over. That was some trial.
October, 4:33 p.m. The Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber.
Professor! What a splendid outcome, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is. Congratulations, Professor Hairbrain.
Mr. Naruhodo! Mr. Taro! I am truly I'm beside myself with gratitude! How can I ever thank you enough? I'm just glad that's all been cleared up. That you realize you were just caught up in a bad situation. Right now, you know, if I had that research grant money, I'd give the whole lot to you! Every penny! Well, that's very kind, but I'm just a student, so I work for exposure.
We don't need any financial reward. Your acquittal is more than enough.
Oh dear! Oh, what can I do? Aha! And about this? As a memento, the paper about my hypothesis is inside. Well, just as a memento then. Thank you.
I've been wondering, Professor. What are you going to do now?
Oh my, yes. What am I going to do? My hypothesis and my great machine lie in rooted ruins. But still, it's been too long since I was last in London, so perhaps I'll enjoy some sightseeing. I must explore the Great Exhibition whilst I'm here too.
and see if new inspiration hits me. Oh yes, that's a wonderful idea.
I'm gonna assume this is Gregson. I can't allow that. Oh, Brock. I can't allow that. Lord Van Zeeks? What are you doing in here? Brock?
I'm sorry you had to go through that, Albert.
Well, if I'm honest, it was terrifying. You were like a great demon behind your bench there, staring down your play.
You're one of the few true friends I have. I couldn't leave it to anybody else to handle the prosecution or the defense.
Sorry? Or the defense? Did I just hear that right?
I always knew you had my best interests at heart. Don't worry. How about you show me around while I'm here in town? It's been a long time since we left university. We have a lot to catch up on.
Listen, Albert. In a few days, your acquittal will be made official. When that happens, you must head straight to Dover. I'll accompany you.
What?
From there, you'll cross the channel and make your way back to Germany. I've already purchased the tickets.
But no! Hold on a minute, Burlock. What about the great exhibition? This is the chance of a lifetime for me. I want to take a look around.
No sightseeing, Albert. Give up on the idea.
Ugh. So, sometimes it's hard to see any warmth in those eyes, Barack. Lord Van Zeeks? What's this all about? What's all this about?
It's a necessary precaution.
Yes, I think I understand. You do? Well, Iris told me that when you meet Lord Van Zeeks at his office... Iris told me that when you met Lord Van Zeeks at his office some days ago, he asked how Mr. Natsumi was doing. Yes, that's right. I remember being surprised at the time, and thinking it was nice of him to ask. The point is, Mr. Natsumi is still alive and well, even though it's been more than 6 months now since he stood trial with the Reaper as the prosecutor. Ah, you mean the Reaper's influence doesn't stretch overseas?
Those in the Reaper's sights meet their ends days or sometimes months after their acquittal. That's been the pattern up till now.
But of course, we know that both Mr. Natsumi and Gina were completely innocent.
Oh, I'm scared for Gina now.
True. And perhaps that governs the Reaper's actions. The truly innocent are spared. But I don't want to take any chances with a close personal friend. Aww.
But Barak!
Like the mustache Nipponese, this man should leave the country without delay. That's why I'm packing him off to Germany at once.
Right. Does your friendship package get any say in this?
Goodness. Was this your intention all along then, Lord Van Zeeks?
In court, where people think of him as the Reaper, this man seems absolutely merciless. And yet, sometimes, I feel as though I don't understand him at all.
It's time to go, Albert. Back to the prison for the time being.
Wait, why? Ah, yes, alright. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo. Thank you so much for everything. Not at all, Professor. It was a pleasure getting to know you.
Best wishes, Professor Harebrained.
Well, once the dust has settled, You must come and visit me in Germany. Anyway, goodbye for now. Wait, when does the war happen?
Now, my Nipponese friend.
Oh, yes? I thought you'd gone too.
We have matters to discuss. Can you spare me some time?
You want to talk with me?
I'll be waiting in the courtroom in 10 minutes.
Well, that was strange. For some reason, I didn't get that sense of impending doom as he walked away this time. The Enigma. Barak Benzies. What does he want to discuss, I wonder? The answer awaits in the courtroom, I suppose. Here it goes, then. "24th October, 4:58 p.m. The Old Bailey courtroom." Are we going to see the face?
So, are you satisfied? You saved a guileless scientist from a great injustice.
Yes, I think so. I'm relieved, at least, that the man's innocence could be proven.
Anyway, I imagine you've been wondering where my animosity towards you Nipponese come from.
Oh, wow, really? Well, at first I thought you just didn't like me. I imagine you saw me as a pretentious child from an unimportant land who had no business being here. But now, I think differently. You clearly know our ways, so I would guess that some specific incident led to your thorough dislike of my race. Will you tell me what happened, please?
The professor. I thought I'd never hear that name in this courtroom again, to be honest.
He took your brother's life.
Clint. My brother was Clint Van Zieks. 16 years ago, when I was still just in my teens, he was already the director of prosecution and a key member of the judiciary. I looked up to him. He was everything I aspired to be. He was involved in the establishment of justice systems in foreign countries as well. There were exchange programs between Britain and other nations then too, to share knowledge and ideas. As part of one of those programs, 3 judicial students came to Britain from your homeland, the Empire of Japan.
Oh! If it was 16 years ago, then one of them could have been my father.
Of course. I remember Dr. Mikutopa well.
I had no idea.
I was a minor at the time, training at the prosecutor's office. One day, Clint introduced me to the 3 visiting Nipponese.
So, you've actually met my father.
He and his colleagues were polite and amicable. They were adept at their work and exacting in their standards. It was my first encounter with the Nipponese spirit, and it made a very great impression upon me. But 6 years later, that's when it happened. The investigation was going nowhere. There were no suspects even. Just an ever-growing list of victims. And in the end, my brother became one of them. The last, in fact, before the case was finally solved.
I'm so sorry, Lord Van Zieks.
Truly. Clint was always ready to put his life on the line for justice anyway. So he wouldn't have wanted it any other way. He lost his life to the killer, but it was his victory in the end. For me personally though, it was a great loss. I found myself in a very dark place indeed. When I finally found out the killer's identity, the reason why no one had been able to catch the man sooner ceased to be such a mystery. He'd been hiding in plain sight all the time.
In plain sight.
Are you aware of political events 10 years ago? It was a period of extremely sensitive diplomacy between the British and Japanese empires.
A new treaty was being forged, I think.
Correct. The Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation was being concluded. The leaders of both countries were deep in extensive political discussions. Which is why this particular killer's appearance in court was conducted as a closed trial.
Ah. He was the third student. Because I think the other student was the judge.
If the British public had known the identity of the killer, not only would the treaty have been in jeopardy, but our two nations could very well have ended up at war.
What? A war? Between Britain and Japan?
But that would mean... Oh my, you mean to say the professor was...
When the trial reached its conclusion earlier, I thought to myself, yes, it's time.
Oh. Okay.
Time for you to come face to face with this hideous monster. I borrowed the key for the mask from the proprietress of the Waxwork Museum. So see for yourselves now. Confirm it with your own eyes. The truth that's been hidden this past decade.
That's the professor?
Yes, that's him.
Until now, the thought never even crossed my mind. That the mass murderer, whose crimes shook Britain as never before, was Japanese.
Wait a minute. That face. I feel as though I've seen it somewhere. It's strangely familiar.
Really? He's related to Cosmo's family?
Father.
Ha.
What? Father? Kazuma! My best friend, Kazuma Asogi. After a whole year, finally his memories returned.
And now the wind comes. Ow.
As he stood there before me. Ryunosuke. Hello again. My friend.
Kazuma-sama!
Judicial Assistant Mikotoba.
Really?
It's been a very long road. Thank you. Thank you for guiding my friend here when I could not.
It was an honor.
I knew you wouldn't die that easily. Kazuma.
I
tight
owe you
outfit.
thanks, too, for taking good care of that in my absence.
Oh. Karuma. The great blade of the Asogi clan. Passed
So,
down
that was
through
my
the
name.
generations. When we left Japan, this sword was at my friend's side. A Japanese man's katana is his soul, and he couldn't be parted from it. But then, when the incident happened, it was Susato-san's wish that I inherit the sword, and I've kept it with me ever since, along with my memories of the friendship we shared. With this by my side, I always felt that you were watching over me somehow.
I guess not. Because you're busy doing your own thing, apparently. Do you have the other sword?
I've made it. At last.
Father.
Are you saying... Surely not. You mean, you knew all this time? I'm looking at it, but I still can't believe it. This mass murderer is Kazuma's father.
Oh, Madame Tussbell's gonna be angry about that.
Kazuma-sama.
Ryunosuke, we have much to talk about. But now is not the time. I'll be seeing you.
That's all Kazuma said. Before he turned and left us there, in the courtroom.
Did Van Zeeks leave earlier, or...? Nope, he was there! Okay. So, he's the living after image of the man who took my brother's life, is he? Yes, Kazuma Asogi, my best friend. 3 months ago, when Lord Strongheart introduced us, I had an inkling there was something there. Some connection. But why did Lord Strongheart do that? Why did he make Kazuma Lord Van Zeek's apprentice? And when he was suffering amnesia too? The man was apprehended, even executed. But his legacy just won't die. That's the sad truth. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I thank you for meeting with me as I asked. He has faded away like a ghost. 10 years ago, my grandmother took me to the railway station. We were there to meet my father from the train. For me, it was the first time I'd ever seen him. Oh yeah, shit, right. Poor Shisao-san. All this is tied up with painful memories for her too.
She's never talked about this with me before though.
It took time to adjust having father around, but just when I was starting to get used to it, he called me into his study one day. He told me that a great friend of his had passed away in London, and that the friend had left behind a son, a boy, 7 years my senior. Father told me the boy had made a promise to his late father, so he was studying to become a defense lawyer. I want to help, so I studied to become a qualified judicial assistant. As I'm sure you've worked out, that young man's name was Kazuma Asogi. So you see, that's how he and I met.
For a brief moment, my great friend had returned, only to disappear again all too soon. But in that fleeting encounter, something stirred. Something that had been dormant for a long time. As if great wheels had been set in motion, I could almost hear them creaking into life. In some ways, it was the end of a chapter, but in many, it was the start of a new one.
And that's the end of case number 8. Oh boy. Unexpected twists. The professor being Kazuma's father. Also the fact that it was a Japanese person. Did not even figure that one out. I really should have. Whew. Twisted Kuruma and his last bow. Oh, last bow. That's interesting. Man, this has gone longer than I expected. Ooh, boy. Well, I'm glad I finished it. Might take a break tomorrow. I have so many emails to get through. Until then, thank you everyone who joined me today, and I'll see you all next time.